Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Do you guys want half?
VR?
All half.
VR?
All right.
Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Time has been a window, and it is official. A new Half-Life game known as Half-Life Alyx has been announced, and it looks absolutely incredible. Not only that, it also has everyone's favorite robot from Portal 2, Wheatley, in human form.
Don't worry, it's unloaded. It's unloaded now!
Or at least they seem like the same character. But no, seriously, this game looks absolutely incredible. After a super long development cycle, the Source 2 engine is now stated to be completed. I wonder what this could mean for future projects. Maybe a new version of Counter-Strike in the next 5 years? Honestly, I still feel like that is highly unlikely. And that is because they have announced this game is VR only. Now I know a lot of you guys are thinking, you know what, VR is probably the future, and to be completely honest, you're probably right, but we're not there yet. In fact, in the comments down below, let me know if you own a VR headset at this time, or if you plan to get one before Half-Life Alyx comes out. I know I don't, but I have played every Half-Life game up until this point. Half-Life, Half-Life Opposing Force, Half-Life Blue Shift, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 The Lost Coast, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2. And I even replayed the original Half-Life and Half-Life Source, so you could say that I'm a bit of a fan. But I'm still probably not gonna go out and get a VR headset. So here's what we know about the game so far. This is a prequel to Half-Life 2, so people are calling it Half-Life 1.5. It is a full campaign consisting of about 13 to 15 hours. Now, I believe the original Half-Life 2 was stated to be 10, even though they say they're about the same length. Now the game sees Alyx and her father Eli secretly mounting a resistance to the brutal occupation of Earth by the Combine. I wonder how that's gonna play out. Oh, and I should mention you do play as Alyx this game, not Gordon. This isn't the first time in Half-Life you play as someone other than Gordon Freeman. In Opposing Force you played as a soldier, and in Blue Shift you played as, I think, Barney. But it could have been some other police officer, I guess. Because let's be honest, they all look the exact same in that game. No, but seriously, I do wonder if there will be some kind of final boss, because as you guys remember, coming into Half-Life 2 as Gordon Freeman, things were pretty messed up at that point and the Combine had pretty much taken over. Now in Half-Life 2, you got this gravity gun that allowed you to manipulate objects, but in this game, you get gravity gloves. Wait, doesn't that sound a lot less bulky and easier to carry around with you? They should have just given Gordon Freeman a pair of these, then he could walk around carrying a rifle while still manipulating gravity. How much easier would that have made it? Then again, she didn't have these gloves in Half-Life 2, so I imagine she lost them and they didn't have a scientist that could replace them. Which is why they had to end up reinventing the gravity gun. Obviously though, the reason they decided to go for gloves is because it fits the control scheme of VR much better. Now, just like any other Half-Life game, this game will have head crabs and of course the usual puzzles. Now, they said they didn't intentionally start out trying to create a Half-Life game, they were actually working with Portal elements, but ran into limitations with VR. Here's the actual quote. Like many game developers, we often use our previous games to experiment with new design ideas. So in this case, we started exploring VR using assets and code from Portal and Half-Life. Unfortunately, momentum retention through portals is a requirement for most of the latter half of Portal's gameplay, and we didn't think we could build a VR game that required the movement of its players yet. It makes me wonder what this means to the exact extent. Does that mean that most player movement is going to be on rails, or that you'll be stuck being stationary? Because if there is free exploration, surely that would be enough to give you momentum. But then again, they also have yet in brackets, so maybe they fixed that problem at this point. I guess we're going to have to wait until more information is known to really find out. Now I know what you guys are asking, why did they make this instead of Half-Life 3? Well, according to them, the answer is pretty simple. There was just too much pressure making Half-Life 3 and they were worried it wasn't going to live up to expectations. And since no one has expectations for a VR game, this seemed like the best way to go about it. So now that the Source 2 engine has officially been completed and they have already made one Half-Life game, is it time for them to return to Half-Life 3? And they actually talked about this, but what they said was a little bit confounding. Basically, they replied with what almost seems like a threat. They said if people don't like Half-Life Alyx, they won't be making a Half-Life 3. So why are they pushing so hard for people to play a VR game? Well, it's because they have so much invested in VR. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but VR is dying out right now. So this is really just a stunt for them to try to revitalize VR. Will it work? Well, personally, I hope to hell it doesn't. And it's not that I don't want Half-Life 3, I really do, but I just don't want them to be forcing VR upon everyone because it's in their own best self-interest. Valve is in a tough spot right now, even though they're not showing it. Between the massive failure known as Artifact and of course the Epic Game Store buying up exclusivity rights, Valve seems to be completely out of touch with their user base. Luckily for them, they have two major cash cows in the form of Counter-Strike Global Offensive and skins, and of course Dota 2. So it's not like Valve has to worry about going under anytime soon. Unless somehow the Epic Game Store creates some Counter-Strike clone and of course Dota 2 clone that pulls everyone away from the games currently. Which, let's be honest, is highly unlikely. But while we're on the subject, now that the Source 2 engine is done, does that mean there is a new Counter-Strike in our near future? I imagine that maybe we could get a new announcement in a couple of years, though I doubt we'd have anything earlier than that because, let's be honest, Counter-Strike Global Offensive's player base is still growing. I mean, with all the hackers, we can say that the game is dying all we want to, but the player numbers show that it just keeps going up and up. So they really have no reason as of right now to release a new Counter-Strike. After all, if they want some more revenue, they can just release some more skins or maybe another one of these operations or battle passes, whatever you want to call it. But if for some reason they did announce a new Counter-Strike, would you rather it be a VR game or a regular PC game? Because this is something you're going to want to think about before you go out and purchase Half-Life Alyx. If this game is a success and does successfully rejuvenate VR, then when it comes to games, I see Valve working exclusively in VR games. However, if this game does fail, I think that Valve's back will be up against the wall. And even though right now they say they won't be making a Half-Life 3 game, I'm pretty sure they will turn around and make a PC Half-Life 3 game. Not only that, if that is the scenario, they may also make a multiplayer component such as Counter-Strike like they did with Source. After all, the past tends to repeat itself and they cannot keep upgrading the Source engine forever. And I know no one out there wants to lose their skins, but at some point, I mean, it's gonna happen. Either the game's just going to become too old and die out, or something else is going to come along and eventually steal all the players away. But yeah, that's where we stand. The good news is, like I said, Counter-Strike is not dying anytime soon. Valve has started really putting time into creating games again, and the future of Valve's games are in your hands. And while I'm not saying don't buy Half-Life Alyx, I do want you to realize that buying Half-Life Alyx is a vote for the potential future that Valve will head into. Because when it comes to big companies like this, despite the analytics, all they really care about is the money. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be going back to my regularly scheduled content tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and as always, have a great day.